Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. My name is Samantha and I teach you how to make clothes. This week we're continuing our Halloween series. Last week we did Kylie Jenner's Fairy, which turned out amazing. This week we're doing Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. I am so excited to do this costume, and it is the 29th of October today. So we have 3 days to finish this. I'm hoping that it will be quite quick. I'm going to get started on the corset now, and I'm going to stop wasting time talking. I hope you enjoy this video. Please subscribe, like, share it with a friend, and comment down below what you want me to make next. Starting off with the corset in this costume, I decided to do a different technique to what I'm used to. We're draping on the mannequin today with masking tape. I have tried this before. If you remember, it was in my Kylie Jenner Miu Miu video, and I did try to do this on myself, but I couldn't end up getting the hang of it. I'm glad I tried it again though, because it was actually really good and I highly recommend it, and I will be using it again as well. So I basically just covered the mannequin in masking tape and then clear tape afterwards. Then I used some draping tape to outline the lines of the design in the corset that I wanted. Then I simply peeled that off the mannequin, cut out all of the pieces, and then stuck them down onto this brown paper. From start to finish, that took me about 3 hours to do. It is a little bit fiddly sometimes, but I think it's definitely worth it. And I do think it's a lot easier than pattern making straight on the paper. But I guess it would just depend on what you're doing. For corsets though, this is amazing and I will be doing it again. I just labeled each one of my pieces so I didn't get confused. I've got that little hip piece on the bottom there, and this is the first time I've done that before, so I thought it would get a little bit confusing, but I've basically just added 2 centimeters as seam allowance anywhere where there's going to be a boning channel. All of the other spots get no seam allowance because they're going to be bound. And because this corset is symmetrical, we're just going to cut 2 of each of these pieces. I'm just drawing around mine with one of those chalk markers, and then I'm cutting out each piece individually, flipping it over, tracing around it again with a tracing wheel, then cutting that piece out. Then I've got 2 mirror image pieces. I just didn't want to cut them together because when you put the shiny side of the fabric against the shiny side of the fabric, it gets all wavy and weird. So I thought this was probably the easiest way to do it, and I just did that to all of my pieces until I had a pile, laid them all where they meant to go, and then I started clipping them. I decided to do one half and then the other half, and then put the halves together in the middle. I just thought it would be easier to handle it if it's just half of a corset instead of the whole time trying to put a whole corset through the machine. I'm also sewing my boning channels right sides together. So I'm pinning right sides together, then I'm going to sew 2 centimeters. And this fabric is extremely finicky in the machine, so I'm using tissue paper underneath the part that I'm sewing, and then I'm using sewing machine oil on top to kind of lubricate the fabric and make it slide under the presser foot easier. Once that 2 centimeter seam allowance has been sewn, you can trim off one of the sides of the seam allowance, and then the other side that we've left behind, we're going to fold it in half and then fold it down, and this is going to be what creates our boning channel. So I've just rolled it over, put some oil on it, and now I'm just edge stitching on the right side and just doing that to all of my boning channels until they're all laying flat. And I just keep re-oiling the fabric as I'm going so that it's not catching into the presser foot. I'm not gonna lie, sewing this fabric was so tricky, and if I didn't have the oil and the tissue paper, we would not have this video. Like, you could literally not do it without it. So I definitely recommend, if you're going to be working with some kind of vinyl, these are really, really good hacks to use. I've just sewn my hip piece to the corset the exact same as I've done the other ones, except this one is the right sides to right sides, whereas before we were doing wrong sides to wrong sides. And then I've just folded the 2 centimeters under, made the channel exactly the same as I did the other ones. This one's a little bit trickier because it's on a curve, but it really doesn't matter. And purely for aesthetic reasons, to make it look like the other channels, I did do a top stitch on this one, just so it doesn't look like it's sewn differently to the other ones. I don't really know what people wear corsets for, like in their everyday life, but I really love this one, and I think I might remake it in some kind of pink satin, or I don't know, some kind of beaded material or something. But I want it to be something that I can actually wear out, like not costumey material, but some kind of fabrication that's kind of like evening wear. I don't know, maybe I'll do that in another video, but I'm definitely going to keep this pattern for the future and use it again. As you can see, I just put boning in all of my boning channels, making sure to light it with my lighter and melt the edges so it doesn't stab out fabric. This fabric is not forgiving, this vinyl fabric. Like if you get a hole in it, you can't just wiggle around the threads and disguise the hole. Like you will see it and you can't fix it. Now I'm just poking all of my holes through for my eyelets. I think I did 8 from memory, but I just did each one 3 centimeters apart with 3 centimeters at the top and 3 centimeters at the bottom. Then once all of those eyelets were in, it was time to put my halves together through the center front, doing a 2 centimeter seam allowance boning channel just like before, except we're folding the pattern side underneath and doing a double boned seam. Now this is where it all started coming together for me. Like once I put this center front seam together, I knew that this costume was going to be so good. It's just so well made and so pretty, and I'm really, really happy with it. Once I completed the corset, it was time to do all of the binding on the bottom and the top, and honestly, this just makes it look so professional. Cut 4 centimeter strips of binding for this, and I'm just attaching it right sides to right sides, sewing a 1 centimeter seam allowance all the way across, then flipping the binding over and doing an edge stitch, and then I've just cut off the excess material on the inside because the raw edge isn't going to fray in this kind of material. And then this is what it looks like on, not decorated. Now it's time to make the mask. So I kind of just did the exact same thing that I did with my mannequin before. I'm just draping the mask on my actual head. So I used Glad Wrap very carefully and then duct tape again very carefully. I didn't want to catch my skin on anything. And then I used draping tape to see where all of the lines were going to go for all of my seams, and then the white stitching details as well. Once I was happy with the pattern that I put on there, I just cut a little bit of it and then pulled it right off my head. And then I sticky taped it back together so that now I can cut up all of the pieces. And I'm just doing the exact same thing as I did in the start with the corset, just cutting out the pieces, laying them flat on the paper so that we can add the seam allowance to them. So my one took a couple of hours to have on my head, which was kind of claustrophobic for me, but I think it turned out really well in the end. I just cut it into like 4 pieces. Then I added 1 centimeter seam allowance around everything. And then I've basically just put it together. It was really difficult actually to remember the order of all of them. Like it was kind of confusing. I had my front, my neck, one of the ears, and then the other ear. And then I kind of just had to remember where they were. Which kind of got confusing, but I just sewed it together like you would anything else, just right sides together, 1 centimeter seam allowance, and then turn it back the right way. I just made sure to trim the seam allowance on the inside of the mask, especially around the cat ears, to make sure that they're nice and sharp and pointy. And then for the rest of the seam allowance on the inside, I kind of just trimmed it down to a 0.5. And then I edge stitched around my eye holes as well, just to make it a little bit more sturdy. And then I just put the rest of it together. I didn't really have an order for this. I just put the earpieces together. I attached the face to the earpieces, and then I attached the neck to that. Like you can make it up as you go along, but that's how it worked for me. And then I attached my invisible zipper into the mask as well. I think this is a 56 centimeter zip. Once that was done, I tried it on briefly. Everything looked good, and now it's time to decorate. I have chosen to use a wool to decorate my corset and my mask, and I just copied some photos that I found on the internet. I'll put them on the screen. And then when that was done, it was time to make the catsuit. So I took the patterns that I already had from this sparkly dress and a pair of leggings. I cut around the pair of leggings to make the bottom part of the catsuit, and then I used that dress pattern and I just cut it off at the waist to make the top part of the catsuit. And I did this because there's a corset that goes straight through the middle. So this is what it looks like without any of the white wool. And now it's time to attach all of the white wool for the white stitching on her outfit. This part took about 5 hours. It was well worth it in my opinion. It honestly brought the outfit together so much. I'm sorry if you can hear my cat purring at the moment. He's just come over to me and wants a place to sit. But yeah, this is what it looked like in the end. It looks amazing. It feels amazing. It fits amazing. I can't believe I did it, to be quite honest with you, and so quickly. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video and had a happy Halloween. Please subscribe, like this video, and let me know down below what I should make next. Bye!